today we're going to be learning about logical fallacies. Okay, a logical fallacy is basically a bad argument. You have bad logic. Okay, we never want to have bad logic. Okay, so our logical fallacies, we're going to start off with slippery slope. Okay, this is something you never want to go down. It means that you didn't do enough research and you end up in an extreme place because you keep thinking of little reasons that promote your initial response. Okay, so say our first problem is homework is bad. Okay, and then you started off listening to reasons. We're going to end up down here somewhere. Okay, someplace extreme. All right, so our next reason is it wastes paper. Okay, and then if we waste paper, that means we kill trees. If we kill trees, then we cannot produce oxygen, so we have more carbon dioxide. More CO2 leads to greenhouse effect. Okay, and then that leads us to global warming. Okay, so homework is going to lead to global warming, so therefore we shouldn't do homework. Okay, that is a flawed logic. Okay, there's a lot of steps that seem to make sense, but when they're well researched, it's not really going to pan out. So this is an example of slippery slope that you don't want to go down. Okay, it's just one reason after another until you end up somewhere completely different from where you started. Okay, so that is a slippery slope. You start at A, end at Z, and then therefore you can't do A. So this just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work. Okay, so we can't do it. All right, it's very weak. We don't want weak arguments. Okay. Let's go ahead and check that one off our list. Now, let's talk about ad hominem. Okay, our problem, global warming. Okay, and so instead of discussing that problem, instead of having a real conversation about what causes global warming, is global warming real, where's the real research behind it, climate change shows over whatever. Okay, you start going into real facts, figures, and discussions based on political leaders, scientists, environmentalists, whatever you want to go at. Okay, so instead of talking about any of those things, you go, Mr. King, you're dumb. You didn't do anything to talk about global warming. No, all you did was talk about how Mr. King is dumb. Okay, so you completely avoided the argument and just went right at me, right? It's a personal attack on myself. Okay, so instead of talking about all the things that lead to global warming or all the things that go list, and have a real discussion about the problem, you just skip right ahead. You see this a lot with political debates. You see this a lot with sports reporters. You see this a lot with people who are reporting the news because you just end up attacking the person because it's easier than having a real discussion. Okay, that comes because you didn't do enough research, or you weren't prepared to talk, or whatever the case may be. Okay, so make sure you're prepared. That way you don't have to attack the person. All right, so ad hominem. Okay, attack the person rather than the problem. We don't want to do that. Okay, circular reasoning. All right, circular reasoning. So when you talk about global warming, okay, you talk about how things heat up. Okay, so your argument would be global warming is real. Well, how do you know? The Earth is warming up. Well, how do you know the Earth is warming up? Because of global warming. But how does global warming happen? Well, the Earth is hotter. Okay, so you notice I'm just saying the same 2 points over and over and over again. Okay, almost like we're drawing a little circle. Okay, you just go from one point to the next point. You might rephrase it every now and again. Okay, but you're saying the same thing. Right? Again, lack of research, lack of effort in going into the real problem. Okay, so circular reasoning get you caught in a pattern you don't want to be in, okay? Because eventually someone's just going to go like, well, I've heard your 2 points, but what else do you have? You don't have anything else, so I'm going to go have a discussion with somebody else because you're not reliable, okay? So don't have circular reasoning. Don't keep saying, well, the earth is hot because it's warm, right? Okay, we want to be more advanced than that. Be more advanced than that, okay? All right. False dichotomy. We have our problem. We're going to stick with global warming. Okay, now with false dichotomy, we have 2 extremes. Okay, so one of our extremes would be move to Mars or die. Okay, maybe the problem becomes so extreme that we have 2 options. Those 2 options are extreme, right? We could probably come up with a better solution than both of these options. Okay, so if you ever think of like a dichotomous tree in science, if you guys ever took life science, it's how you organize animals and stuff like that. So we want to make sure we stay away from a false dichotomy because then it gives us 2 options that are very extreme that don't really work with what we're working with. Okay? We don't want to die. We don't want to move to Mars. So we're going to have to fix this problem through research. Okay? So false dichotomy, having 2 options that are extreme and don't really work with our problem. Okay. Now, moral equivalence. This is where you compare a person, again, an extreme. So, for example, if you don't believe in global warming, you are worse than Hitler. Okay? That's not true. Just because you don't believe in global warming doesn't mean you're worse than Hitler. It means you might want to read. It means that you might have a discussion with someone, or you can prove why you don't believe it. Right? So, say our climate is changing. Okay, let's go find proof of it. Let's go have a real thing. Okay, let's not compare ourselves to Hitler. We can do better than that, okay, right? So, moral equivalence. When you're comparing somebody to somebody way worse just because it makes it easier, right? So you're, again, kind of attacking that person. All right, moral equivalence. Post hoc ergo propter hoc. If this causes something, then that something causes it, okay? So, let me explain this, okay? I'm going to venture away from our global warming and go into a new one about Hogwarts, okay? I hate school because it's not Hogwarts and it's boring. Okay, so if we're doing post hoc, these are our causes of why we hate school. All right, so we could say in a statement, my school is not Hogwarts and is boring, so I hate it. Okay? This is post hoc. My school is not Hogwarts and it's boring, so I hate it. I hate school because it's not boring and it's Hogwarts. Okay? So if this is the cause, and you can put it up here, post hoc, ergo hoc. If this happens, then that will happen. Okay? And if that happens, that means it must be the cause of it. Okay? So this causes me to hate school. You can say it this way. That's why you hate it. Okay? Post hoc. All right, red herring. Okay, so let's hop back on our train to global warming. Okay? So let's say our topic is, we want to talk about setting environmental restrictions. Okay, and then all of a sudden your opponent goes, well, my school's Hogwarts. Okay, so you're completely distracting the other person from their argument. Okay, you're going off into the left field, okay, on a little tangent. So here's our problem, and we took the switch and went this way. Okay, so our problem, here we are distracting ourselves. So red herring is a distractor. Okay, it takes us away from the main point of our problem. Again, you see this in a lot of political debates. You see this in a lot of discussions where the opponent is afraid of whatever they're talking about and wants to change the subject. Okay, so you're basically changing the subject. That is what red herring does. Okay. All right, hasty generalization. Okay. Hasty generalization is like, global warming. All cars contribute to global warming. Okay, that's not necessarily the case. You could have a hydrogen car, or a car that runs on biomass, and or something like that. And it can still work. Okay. But basically, you're going, global warming's happening. Then our hasty generalization would be okay, we're all going to burn up. Well, that's just you jumping to conclusions. Okay? That's all you're doing right there. Don't jump to a conclusion. Don't have a hasty generalization. Make sure you have all the facts. Okay? If you don't have all the facts, well, you're going to be worse than Stacy at Starbucks when they don't have their almond milk to put in there. Okay, you'll be real sad. All right, straw man. Okay, straw man is where you make an argument less. Okay, so say for example, global warming. And then they say, oh, restrict car usage. Okay, and then you go, oh, this is you speaking. Oh, you want me to throw away 30 grand and just walk everywhere? Well, hopefully you save 30 grand by walking everywhere, but that is just a straw man. So you take, restrict car usage, okay. Maybe you drive your car Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, you carpool, take public transportation, bike, some other alternative to driving your car all over the place, but instead you respond with, oh, you want me to throw away my $30,000 car and just walk everywhere? Who are you and what are you doing with my feelings? Okay, no, that's not the case. This is a bad argument. You took their argument, reworded it to where it makes sense for you, and then you're kind of making it sound like it's a really bad thing when it could just be like, oh, you don't drive on Fridays, carpool, or take the subway, take MARTA, whatever, to your job. Okay, so be careful with that. Straw man takes it, makes a weaker version of itself, and then kind of makes it look a little extreme too. Okay, so straw man. Bandwagon. Okay, that's when you don't really know what's going on, and everybody's like, oh, global warming is real, global warming is real, global warming is real, global warming is real. Okay, why do you say that? Well, because everybody else does. Okay? Okay, so just like Clemson fans for the next 2 years, you're going to be saying, well, warming is real. Okay, so hop on the bandwagon, say it's real, everybody else does. Okay, so like when you're jumping off your cliffs, like your mom thinks you are, you can go ahead and say, yep, I'm going to go ahead and jump off that cliff, Mom, because everybody else is. All right, hop on the bandwagon. I'll drive it over for you. Non sequitur, okay, when your conclusion doesn't make any sense. Okay, so we have a list of ways to help reduce CO2 in the air. Okay, plant trees, scrubbers, / filters, vehicle restrictions. Okay, so these are all points to help fix global warming. Then all of a sudden you come out of left field and say, save the polar bears. Okay. Unless you plan on refreezing some Arctic glaciers, I don't think you can save too many polar bears by doing these 3 things. Okay, it's going to take a long process. Right? So global warming, we have some restrictions we're going to put in place. Plant some trees, have some scrubbers or filters on your factories. Vehicle restrictions, drive on Tuesdays only. Okay? But your conclusion was saves the polar bears. Okay, this isn't the point. Okay, this is part of it, right? But this doesn't logically conclude. Okay, so you got to make sure whatever you're saying matches up with whatever you have listed in your argument. Okay, so non sequitur is where your conclusion, right, your final piece, doesn't match up with your argument. Okay, hopefully this helps you out with logical fallacies. If not, well,